Let's go. So does Jaden Daniels have an interception problem? I'm going to need your help in the comment section because, guys, the turnovers were an issue. After going 22 touchdowns and 3 interceptions combined in his first 2 seasons, he went 10 touchdowns and 10 interceptions last year, including this atrocity of a throw in the red zone. So what exactly happened, and were the interceptions entirely his fault? So the first thing is that we've already done 2 very brief Jaden Daniels film study. We did his excellent performance versus UCLA, where he was near perfect. Now, UCLA made things easy on him, but still, he was fantastic. I'll link that one down below. And we also talked about his worst game in my mind, which was versus USC, where he threw 2 interceptions. And we did a brief little film study on the live stream. So we're going to link both of those down below, and we're probably not going to talk about those games too much. So let's talk about all the other ones, where Jaden Daniels wasn't necessarily spectacular, but his issues, well, watch this interception, and you'll see what I'm talking about as far as not everything being his fault. So Arizona State had pretty much dominated this first quarter versus BYU, and then they started to do what they did all year, which was play very undisciplined football and shoot themselves in the foot. Now, this interception on this middle screen was not the fault of Jaden Daniels, nor really the fault of the tight end. This was more so on the play design because the offensive lineman here couldn't make a very difficult block, which led to the interception here. You'll see it on the reverse angle right here. Offensive lineman misses this block. I don't think you're ever going to see a middle screen such as this one in the Mike Denbrock offense. He does like to get creative with the screen game, but still, this play design was just doomed from the start, and it led to an interception. So the one thing I would see consistently from Arizona State, charting them all day, is they would make a big play such as this one. This is Jaden Daniels at his absolute best. Breaking the pocket, rolling out to the right, trying to throw something deep, but then making the smart decision here just to hit his very talented running back, Rachaad White. And White is one of the best running backs I've ever seen in the Pac-12 once he gets the football in his hands. He breaks a lot of tackles. He falls forward for a lot of yards like he does here. So this is obviously a big gain, but this is something that just happened consistently, where once Arizona State would get a big play such as this one, they would then commit multiple false start penalties, holding penalties, drop passes, and it would be in a scenario such as this one, a 3rd and 12, where Jaden Daniels, knowing Herm Edwards is very conservative on 4th down, he is going to try to force this ball into an extremely tight window. The ball sails on him because it is the only place where he can actually fit this football. He talked about this in a post-game press conference. He couldn't really run all that much versus BYU because they did a lot of rush 3, drop 8, and that is what they do here. And this ball is not the absolute worst throw, but it is high, and he is trying to get all the yards here, and it does get intercepted, okay? Now, that is a bad pick. He did sail the guy, but it was also 3rd and 12, so you have to take a chance to try and get all those yards, down 14 on the road. Boom! So I'm looking at you right now, okay? I'm just making sure you're awake, because up to this point, you have seen all 3 of Jaden Daniels' interceptions in the first 7 games. So it wasn't until game number 8, Jaden Daniels went 4 games without a pick until this one versus Washington State. Now, this, to me, is one of the worst interceptions I think I've seen from a third-year starter because, once again, the game is still within reach, 7-0. Arizona State had started very slow. They had an emotionally draining loss the week before versus Utah, which turned out to be the best team in the Pac-12. They were in Utah. They were in control of the game. They had a late lead, and a bunch of drop passes and just brain farts all around led to Arizona State losing that game. And ironically, that was Jaden Daniels' best road performance of the season. I know I said it was UCLA, but after charting that game versus Utah, Jaden Daniels was actually pretty freaking good. his team let him down. And right here, the team, Arizona State, after that second loss, came out very flat. They had already had a fumble in this game. They had a targeting call, which led to Washington State's first touchdown. And right here, you guys already saw it drawn up on the telestrator. This is pretty simple. You're rolling out to the right. There's a few options. You could hit this guy right here. You can also hit this comeback route. Andre Johnson, Arizona State wishes he played like the real Andre Johnson. But instead of just hitting either one of these options, or at least just running with it, he throws across his body right here. Okay? Look at this. That was the worst option of the three that he could have chosen, which was just run and take these yards, hit this guy who was wide open, or right here is actually the best option, and he chose that one. Winnable losses. The first thing that's kind of weird about this pick, rarely do you see someone fix their face mask midway through the play. It's kind of strange right there, and it looked like his helmet wasn't really bobbling, and he just kind of floats this ball up on this 3rd and 6, just trying to make something happen, and he just throws it right to this guy. I mean, that's just so bad. But Herm Edwards just did not have this team ready to play a lot, and even he said after their BYU loss, they were very undisciplined, and they just never fixed these issues. And now you get to this game versus Washington, and the Huskies weren't a good football team, but this was a tough place. It was a loud stadium, and it was raining, and Daniels only threw for 90 yards, and now you're going to see another interception by Jaden Daniels. That wasn't his fault. In fact, this was one of the better throws I saw him make on the season. The wide receiver just didn't dive. And look at the anticipation right here. And look at where this ball was actually placed in this window right here on this 3rd and 9. Once again, Daniels knows that his head coach is not an aggressive 4th down play caller. So he's having to force these throws to try and get all these yards. And look at where that ball is thrown. Okay, this was the only place he really could have put that ball, away from this linebacker, and the receiver gets a hand on it, and it's just an unlucky ricochet right into the safety. At the very least, dive for this ball to make sure that it doesn't ricochet into a pick. So here we are, it's 3rd and 16, and this is going to be another interception, right? Wrong. I want to show you the resiliency on this kid. They are down by 10, and they've been all over the place this game, and of course he's going to have to make a play. And Daniels also knows, once again, his head coach is not an aggressive 4th down play caller, and instead of just trying to run for this 1st down, Daniels finds his best player on the team, Rachaad White, right here, for a nice 1st down completion to keep this game essentially alive. So now it's under 6 minutes. The score is still 24-14. Let's see if Jaden Daniels can find a way to win this football game for Arizona State. We get a nice little zone read action here. He sees that the defensive end commits, so he decides to actually pull this thing, and this is stopped, and he's able to keep his feet on the wet turf, somehow keep his balance, spin move right here, and this is just some real gutsiness and grit to find a way into the end zone here to make this a 3-point game. So Jaden Daniels on the very next drive was able to lead Arizona State on a game-winning drive, and they were able to find a way to win that game versus the Huskies even though they were down 10. The very next week, they go to Oregon State, and we talk about this a lot on the channel. Back-to-back road games in college football are tough, and it's for things like this. On the opening drive of the game, you could see here that this is clearly a slide protection to the left. So every offensive lineman, your responsibility is the gap to your left. Anything that comes through that gap is your responsibility. This pulling tackles or guard is supposed to pick up this blitzer right here. He does, but what happens here is 66 decides to help right here when he should have stuck with his gap. 32 is a, or 32, 22, whatever, is able to get through, forces pressure right here, and Daniels just heaves up a prayer on the opening drive, and he gets destroyed. Yes, the protection broke down, but you can't throw this interception on the first drive of the game. At least it's a deep arm punt. Alrighty, so let's move ahead to the final game of the season. And once again, both teams are 8-4. Both teams performed under expectations, and here on this play action fake, we have a wide receiver going up against this safety or edge player, whatever position he plays. He swim moves over the top. Jaden Daniels is looking for something deep, and he takes a really bad sack right here. And once again, this is the first drive of the game. So all year long, his offensive line would fail him, but right there, Jaden Daniels has to throw that football away and not take that sack. And once again, a lot of Jaden Daniels' mistakes came on 2nd and long and 3rd and long, and we have another one right here. And this is a really, really, really bad interception. So you get the end zone angle here. Once again, got to give Wisconsin a lot of credit. Rush 3, drop 8. This worked versus BYU. Make Jaden Daniels beat you from the pocket. And look at this. This is just not there. I don't know if he thought number 12 was supposed to stop. 12 had issues with drops and just overall chemistry with Jaden Daniels all season. I don't know if he thought that he was going to sit right there, but either way, 15 was all over it. Something else that is a major concern right here from this end zone angle is that Jaden Daniels is essentially staring 12 down the entire time. His head is just looking just right in that direction. Any smart safety or backer right there is going to pick this football off right there. So, boom! So I'm looking at you. Yes, you, right now. Jaden Daniels, you got to see 8 of his 10 interceptions in this video today. The other 2 from that USC game at home, which I thought was Jaden Daniels' worst performance of the season. Once again, they were entirely on him. So I didn't include it in this video because you already get the point. Most of the interceptions this year were on Jaden Daniels. Now, if you weren't, the Washington interception where the ball was put in that tough window, and then the BYU interception, look, you're looking at a Twitter thread I did earlier today. I felt 7 of his 10 interceptions were entirely on Jaden Daniels, and that's being generous. That number's probably 8. But, still, you got to include a little extra context. You saw that photo just a minute ago. That was from the Utah game, where once again Daniels was really good, and he was hit a bunch, and his guys dropped a bunch of passes, and he threw 0 picks. And then once Arizona State had that second loss and they were out of playoff contention, and the rumors swirling about the future of the program and the off-the-field issues that they were having, the team just changed. I don't know if it was body language. I don't know if Jaden Daniels himself checked out. But the bottom line is this was a mess of a team. So, yes, Jaden Daniels shoulders a good bit of the blame. I wouldn't watch some of his press conferences. He would take quite a bit of the blame. He would put a lot of it on himself. But, at the same time, it wasn't necessarily all on him. A lot of his protection broke down and so on, his offensive lineman getting hurt. It's tough. It's complicated. So let me know down below, after watching this video today, do you believe Jaden Daniels has an interception problem? Now, we get to the end of the video, and if you are a diehard PHLer, you know that we always like to give you a little extra nugget. Now, I make no mistake about it. Herm Edwards, has been a disaster as Arizona State head coach. Brian Kelly is the opposite of Herm Edwards. He plays, for the most part, pretty turnover-free football. I think his leadership will help Jaden Daniels with the ball security thing if he does end up being the quarterback for LSU. So, a lot of the stuff surrounding Jaden Daniels will get cleaned up because I do think LSU next year under Brian Kelly's leadership will be a far more button-up football team. So we'll see if that actually helps, but a lot of the turnover issues Jaden Daniels is going to have to. Hope you guys swing by a live stream if this happens to be your first time watching. Thank you guys so much. And boom, there is another Jaden Daniels UCLA film study where he was phenomenal, okay? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. Comment down below, would you guys like to see a film study from this Utah game? I'll happily do that. And tonight, we're doing salads tonight. Let's go.